All right, Shalom. First, I'd like to start by saying all praise to Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Karkadash, double honors to the elders and apostles that rule well, and salutations to the brothers that's doing the truth and sincerity. As you can see, the title of this video is Plane Carrying 132 People Crashes in China. So I'm going to go ahead and play this clip and add some precepts.
So, turning back to the story that we've been following all morning long, a China Eastern Boeing 737 plane has crashed in the southern part of the country. There is no word yet on whether anyone has survived the crash. Officials say rescue crews have been sent to the site. So, for more on this, we want to bring in CBS News transportation safety analyst Robert Sumwalt. He's also a former chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board. Robert, I'm so happy you were here today. First, let's just start with this plane. The aircraft is a Boeing 737-800. What can you tell us about this type of plane?
Well, good morning, Anne-Marie. I think it's really important to point out that this is not the 737 MAX that had two crashes three and a half years ago and was subsequently grounded. This is indeed a 737, but it's not the MAX. It's the 737-800. So I think that's important to point out right off the bat.
Robert, is this the same model used by domestic airlines in the United States?
Yes, the 737-800 is widely used by several of the major airlines here in the United States.
And so how would you describe China's safety record?
Well, generally good. It's gotten much better over the years. 20 years ago, it wasn't as good as we would like for it to be. Of course, any crash is catastrophic, but over the last few years, they've been adopting most of the best practices of Western nations, such as the United States. So they do have a good safety record at this point, but that doesn't discount the fact that there's a tragedy there today.
Robert, the crash, from what we know, occurred in a remote mountainous area of the country. It seems like that rough terrain might complicate rescue efforts.
Well, absolutely, Mullah. It is a very, as you just showed there, it is a very mountainous area. I'm not optimistic that there are survivors. This airplane plunged from a high altitude, and I hate to say it, I don't think there's any survivors. As far as the ability to conduct the investigation, airplanes these days are constantly downlinking altitude information, airspeed information, all types of information. So I don't think that the ability, perhaps the inability to access the wreckage site right now will complicate the investigative efforts.
Now, I know you people who have worked with the NTSB, you are not prone to speculation, but I am going to ask you a couple questions in regards to, what Mullah brought up about the mountainous region. Could that have an impact on this plane's flight? Whether it's in relation to weather or, maybe something that we may be less familiar with that you might be aware of.
Well, you're right. I don't want to sound like I'm speculating, but mountains, from a meteorological point of view, can create a mountain wave activity, which will send air currents upward very quickly, and sometimes that can be a factor in an accident. But it's too early to say right now what may have caused this plane to come down. But whatever it was a catastrophic event. An airplane descending that quickly out of the sky. Something badly happened to cause the pilots to lose control of that airplane.
Robert, this has less to do with the mechanics of flying and the plane itself, but can we expect full transparency from the Chinese in an investigation like this?
Well, given that it's a U.S. manufactured airplane, the NTSB, by international treaties, should be invited to participate in this investigation. So it will be the Chinese government's investigation, but the NTSB should be a part of it. So what the Chinese government does with it, that's really up to them. But I do feel good knowing that the NTSB and Boeing and probably even the FAA will be a part of the Chinese government's investigation.
Robert Sumwalt, thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Hold on, I got two more.
South of the country. The Boeing 7... We begin with some breaking news out of China. A passenger plane carrying 133 people has crashed in the south of the country. The Boeing 737 came down in the countryside near Wuzhou in the Guangxi region of the country. State media says the number of casualties isn't known. Katrina Yu is joining us from Beijing. Katrina, what more are you hearing about this crash in this particularly mountainous area of China?
Well, there seems to be a very disastrous accident, and fears are growing concerning the lives of those on board. It's a developing story. We're still getting some details, but this is what we know so far. It was a Boeing 737 passenger plane, and it left the southern city of Kunming in the province of Yunnan at about 1:15 p.m. local time. Now, it was headed to the city of Guangzhou, which is not far from Hong Kong, and that flight should have only taken less than 2 hours. They're not very far away. But before, obviously, it did not arrive at its destination, and instead, the plane has crashed in Guangxi province, which is a very rural, mountainous area. We've seen some social media posts online, some videos showing scenes of what purports to be the crash of this plane. It seems that there has been a wildfire caused by the plane coming down, and really you can get a sense of how remote this area is. Now, Chinese state media says there are rescue teams on the way, and because of how difficult this terrain is, you can see that it's not going to be easy to get rescue teams there very, very quickly. Now, China's Civil Aviation Authority have confirmed the crash. They say that there were 132 people on board, including the crew as well. Now, we don't know any more details regarding how many casualties there might be, what might have caused this crash, but this has already caused a lot of shock, especially on social media. China has quite a good record of aviation safety. Accidents like this are extremely rare. The last time we had any sort of plane incident or plane crash was in 2010, and before that, the other incident was in 2004. So this doesn't happen very frequently at all. But even those incidents, they involved fewer than 100 people. So this is definitely the biggest aviation incident that we've had in China for years.
Yes, it certainly doesn't look encouraging. Those shots are awful. Thank you very much for that update. Katrina Yu, live for us in Beijing.
Hey, business owner. Every 30 seconds, thousands of people search for a local business on Yelp.
Horrific footage verified by Chinese state media shows the aircraft nosediving to the ground in the remote southern province of Guangxi. The passenger plane operated by China Eastern Airlines departed from the city of Kunming just after 1 p.m. local time. It was headed to the city of Guangzhou, a route which should have taken less than 2 hours, when it suddenly lost altitude, dropping more than 6,000 meters in just 2 minutes. Videos circulating on social media show a wildfire reportedly sparked by the crash. The 132 people on board, including 123 passengers and 9 crew members, are feared dead. Hundreds of emergency workers have been dispatched to the site. President Xi Jinping has called for an immediate investigation. Analysts say the Boeing Model 737-800 aircraft has a good safety record.
The 737-800 has been a workhorse, and I believe that China Eastern have over 600 jet aircraft, and I think they've got somewhere along the lines of 130 737. So it's a very reliable aircraft, and it's quite an amazing story that an aircraft can crash on a 2-hour flight.
The Boeing 737-800 is a predecessor of the 737 MAX, a model that has been banned from commercial use in China after 2 crashes within months that killed 346 people in Indonesia and Ethiopia. The crash is China's worst aviation disaster in years. Its safety record has been among the best in the world for a decade, though experts have questioned the reporting of safety lapses. China Eastern Airlines says it's mourning the loss of those on board and has grounded all of its Boeing 737-800 aircraft until further notice. Katrina Yu, Al Jazeera, Beijing.
All right. This is 2 Ezra chapter 15, verse 1. It says, Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, said the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Fear not the imagination against thee, let not the incredulity, the unbelief of them trouble thee that speak against thee. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. Behold, said the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. Right, man, so as you can see, 132 people died. They say 133 on the other channel, but however many it was, that's the Lord bringing the plagues upon this world, man. And death was one of them. And you know, when I first came into truth for a couple years straight, I was having visions on airplane crashes. You know, and you know, a couple years after I came in, them airplane crashes started to happen a whole lot. You know, but they still happening, man, because prophecy. This is Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 5. Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 5, it said, The just Lord is in the midst thereof. So like you. Give me 1 second. The just Lord, Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 5, the just Lord is in the midst thereof. He will not do iniquity. Every morning doth he bring his judgment to light. And as you can see, this was a judgment. And, you know, it isn't a sin. It isn't an unrighteous judgment. Every morning doth he bring his judgment to light. He faileth not, but the unjust knoweth no shame. Right, man? So people still going to continue to be wicked. You know, the Lord just going to keep killing them off until he comes back and set everything in order, man. All right. This is Psalm chapter 68, verse 20. He that is our power is the power of salvation, and unto Yahweh the Lord belongeth the issues from death. Right, so the Lord is the one that sanctions death, man. With that being said, call all Yabashim Shai, double honors to the elders and apostles that rule well, and salutations to the brothers that's doing the truth and sincerity. Shalom.